Hey everybody, how's it going? Dan Shinder here on Drum Talk TV with a first time hazing with Jeremy Colson. This guy right there coming to us from North LA County, near where I grew up. Spent half my life out in that area. I'm now in the mountains, 100 miles east of Phoenix up in Globe. And folks, if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at the monitor to check your comments. I'm not watching the Flintstones like when I interviewed Dean Castronovo, okay? Had a monitor in front of the stage there. I think I heard some of what he's saying. He plays with Spinal Tap or something. Anyways, I'll be looking for your comments. Tell us where you're watching from. Give us shout outs. Jeremy, welcome. And it's so awesome to have you. I'm such a fan of your playing. I stood in front of my kit last night in my studio. I had a can of lighter fluid in one hand, drumsticks in the other. I'm like, am I inspired or do I just want to say screw it? After plowing through a bunch of your videos. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. Thank you so much, Dan. It's an honor to be doing an interview with you. I love, like we were saying earlier, I love the interviews you do. I love the one you did with Dean. And it's great talk. I love talking about drums, and I love just, talking about life and music and all that stuff.
Thanks. Thank you.
So I'm really excited to be doing this interview with you.
I appreciate that. And we'll touch on all of that and more, including, folks, you got to watch the whole thing because towards the end, you know how I roll. It'll be the Jeremy Colson Fun Fact segment where you learn some behind the scenes stuff, a peek behind Jeremy's curtain. And as we're recording this today on March 18th, Jeremy's leaving with Steve Vai in 3 days to hit the road on tour, starting with Portugal. How long is the tour and where are you guys going? Let's start with that.
Well, we start in Portugal. And then we go to Spain, and then we kind of work our way to Eastern Europe. We're out for 6 weeks in Europe, and then I'm home for 3 weeks, and then I'm off for 3 weeks in South America, and then I'm home for like 2 weeks, and then I'm back in the States, and then we're in the States for I think like 8 weeks. Then I come home from that, and then we go back. Then we go to Asia. Australia, New Zealand, and possibly they're talking about Africa, South Africa. Just, we always like to try to hit places that bands just don't go to. We might go to China. China might be open. It might not be. I'm not sure.
Right.
But we get out there. We play anywhere. That's what's great.
That's awesome. And I have to apologize. In the graphic player that's overlaying our video window, there's an E in your last name. I don't know how.
Dude, that's okay,
someone had some extra money laying around and bought a vowel. I don't know what to say.
You know what, man? It's like Jeopardy. It's okay.
How far east are you going in Europe? Do you know?
East.
Really?
Like we're
like the Slavic countries and whatnot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Wow.
That. Yeah, and that's a different experience than, there's the fun parts of Europe. Like for me, I have Scandinavian heritage, Danish and Swedish. So my favorite places to go are all the Nordic countries. And I love Nordic metal, and I love just the whole Viking culture. And I think all that stuff is so cool. And I feel, I don't know. I feel like my roots are in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
When sounds of ancient songs, and
Yeah.
That's.
Did you get into the TV show Vikings?
I did a little bit.
My wife and I we fell down that rabbit hole so far it was hard to dig out of it at the end. Yeah, that was so interesting.
The last show that I binged, I think, was Breaking Bad, and then after that, it's like, all right,
Let me just plow through Pink Floyd's catalog to kind of cleanse the.
Exactly.
That's cool. Awesome. Let's start now with your drumming and musical journey. Why drums? Why not the bagpipes, the accordion, the paper and comb, bladed grass, clogging, river dancing? Why drums?
Stupidest answer. Why drums? Why not? Of course, the cliche answer. Why drums?
That's a good answer.
Or Dan, or there's the classic one of, I didn't choose the drums.
Oh, the drums chose Jeremy.
The drums chose me.
I love it.
Honestly, I was in fifth grade, and my brother, what did he play? He got a saxophone and I got a snare drum. I went to a Catholic school. I had a nun for a teacher, if you can believe that. I got kicked out in 5th grade. I never went back again. But they had the little band, so I got the snare drum. And the day I got the snare drum, I went home and I put on a song and I just started playing a song on the snare drum.
Do you remember the song?
Yes, Lizzie Borden, "Me Against the World." Yes.
Wow, and that became your life anthem.
I'm telling you, man, I came home, I went down to my room and I set the snare drum up and I put that song on and I just started playing along. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was playing in time.
You know what? I've been playing 54 years. I still don't know what I'm doing. I should be a lot better.
You know what? Drumming is with exceptions of the Vinnies and the Castronovos and the guys that are just
the aliens,
alien, just freak of nature type people.
Yeah.
Drumming it's physical. It requires skill. It requires concentration,
coordination,
the butt of all the jokes.
Yeah. Coordination. Well, actually, so once upon a time, I was judging a Guitar Center drum off. And of course, the MC is telling all these drummer jokes and everyone's laughing, while he's warming everyone up. So finally he said, do you know how a drummer's at the door? We all know that one, right? So I stood up and I said, well, do you know how a guitar player's at the door? And everyone's like, what? No, what's that? I said, because the knock comes a half hour late.
Oh, that is good.
As Kelso would say, burn.
That's true. Yeah, that's great. That's total truth.
Yeah. But so you went from that snare drum to eventually sitting at a kit. How did that come about?
I mean, within a couple of weeks, we went back to the music store and we got this, really like a CB700 kind of kit, just a crappy thing. But I took it home and I put it on and I was playing along to Kiss and, like Motley Crue or whatever, I put it on and it wasn't a problem for me to just like play a beat. Like it was pretty natural.
Yeah. Did you have a teacher at that point or just
self? I did. I had a few different teachers. My main teacher was a friend of mine named Alan Schechner. And Alan Schechner studied with Chuck Brown.
Oh, wow.
Who was Terry Bozzio's teacher.
Yeah.
So he was a longtime student of Chuck's. So we learned the whole, a lot of that finger technique and a lot of this, and it was cool because, Bozzio was my idol. Like him and Pert, like those two are just, Bozzio, like I idolized him. I used to dress in black and I had a ponytail and like I wanted to be Terry Bozzio just because he was so unique as a drummer. And so yeah, I mean I have seen how drummers, the right drummer makes a good drummer will make a shitty band sound great.
Your band is only as good as your drummer. We have Drum Talk TV shirts that say that. Your band really is as good as your drummer. Yeah. And on that note, if I may, you and I haven't spoken about this. So I don't know what your take is, and whatever it is, I respect. Sometimes what I'm going to say will cause a shitstorm with the audience, but I'm going to ask. So a lot of people are down on Lars, and personally, I don't get it. How can you be down on a drummer who has platinum albums and he's the engine room? Like, am I missing something or is he getting bad heat?
Let me tell you something, Dan. People that are down on Lars are just people that are jealous of the fact that he's sitting in a room counting money. And, the fact is, like, people have to understand something with, we're in an age now where we live in a YouTube generation of drummers. Yeah. So it's all about perfection and how the drums, everything doesn't sound real. Everything is just like, and it's just like these drum cams. Like, watch me do something that you'll never be able to do on this drum thing. And here we go. And we're living in such an age of that it's refreshing when you can kind of get away from that.
Yeah.
And kind of like look, people think like, okay, he's playing in perfect time. His time is perfect. His time is perfect. Lars's time is not perfect.
Right.
But the reason like music like punk rock has such a powerful way about it is because the emotion is there.
Yeah, it
and
was
when
real.
Lars
It was
plays,
organic and authentic.
look at Lars play. He's very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And people that diss on him they're just people that are just jealous because they're in their basement playing with no one.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's very easy, especially as you get into an instrument and you want to progress at it, and then you can kind of like point out other musicians who are, oh, he's not really that good, or that guy's not that good, or that guy's not that good. Yeah, but you know what? He wrote the drum parts and wrote the song Master of Puppets.
Right. Exactly.
So clearly that's made more of a statement than 95% of any YouTube drummers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, you bring up a great point that I want to touch on, and I've been thinking about this lately. So this is a great time to bring it up. I have mad respect for drummers at any age, from 5 to 75, that can sit down and play to their favorite music. I do that most of the time. I'm way past, and I don't mean this way, but in age and my dreams, I'm way past creating new music. I used to do that.
Yeah.
I used to write, compose, produce, do session. Now I do the same thing. I play to all my favorite music. I have mad respect for that. But what I'd like to see, especially with the youngsters, what I'd like to see a lot of these kids do from 5 to 35 that can nail any song, I want to see them create. I want to see them teach something. I want to see them do a drum composition, like your solos are compositions, and we'll get to that. I love that they've got this down, but what's in here? Can you create and not just emulate? They're two different things, and they both take an immense amount of skill. I want to see both.
Yeah, but I have to say and it's funny that you talk about this because this is what Vinny was mentioning also. When we were growing up and we didn't know how to figure out a drum part, we couldn't. There was no YouTube. There was no internet.
Yeah, you lifted the needle, put it back. Lifted the needle, put it back.
We would have to listen to the record, or hopefully maybe find a bootleg of a live show, and maybe see if we saw, like, I could see how Neil did that, what he was playing. And now, dude, everything. That's why you can see 3-year-old drummers playing La Villa Strangiato or Tom Sawyer. You know, like the visual aspect of learning has gone through leaps and bounds because of the fact that the content that you can see and anything you type into YouTube, how do I play the Rosanna Shuffle?
Yeah.
You're going to get a bunch of videos, including Jeff, breaking it down. Talking about the Rosanna Shuffle.
Yeah.
And so I think that I feel like it used to, when we were younger, it required, and this might be me sounding like old, but like I feel like it required a little bit more creativity to understand drum parts or to figure things out, because you couldn't just look at it. You couldn't type on something.
It required a part of our brain that we had to rely on without the visual part. We had to hear it and then think of the math in our head and picture, how does that pattern look? Like I remember, okay, so here we go. Ready? Back in my day, I started playing.
Drop some names for me, Dan.
Yeah, I started playing Led Zeppelin music when I was 7. And when I heard Moby Dick on the live version from The Song Remains the Same, before the movie came out, the album was out, the movie was not out. I was doing his triplets that had the snare mixed in, but then when I saw the movie and I saw him doing the crossover, I was like, oh, like I couldn't hear that part, and I kind of like relearned it. And I think what people who are not pre-internet and not pre-YouTube, they'll never understand how different it was to figure stuff out unless they try it themselves. Go figure something out without looking for the video. Just do it with your ears, teach your hands how to do it. And that's another thing. It's one thing to understand what you're hearing, figure out the math, and then teach your body to do it if you even can. There's like different steps there, but the visual part is everything. It's the X factor that I think that and flying saucers dropping off young aliens is what we're seeing now. It's a combination.
Well, absolutely. You know, Dan, one of the things I notice with the younger, not just drummers, but musicians that I've seen, and I've seen, I'm not going to name names of anything, but like I've witnessed like the younger generation not knowing how to communicate on stage with other musicians.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is so like, okay, here's my track.
Yeah.
Here's my track. You know, I play along to this and it's exactly like this. But then when you say, okay, well then let's do, you know, the reason I love playing with Vi is because you are always pushed to stretch.
Yeah.
You know, and he'll always say, I don't want you to jam right here, but do something like, you know, he always makes you push.
Yeah.
It's not just play a beat. And that's for a musician, you know, it might not be the biggest paying gig in the world, but to have somebody who can push you musically, and when you, not just musically, but just like when you play, how you communicate with other musicians. It's like that's been, everybody now plays it, you know, tracks. I understand we use tracks on certain things. I mean, but like there's this whole thing now. Okay, press play, put your head down and just go. And it's like, that's not how,
that's not why you're in a room together either. I'd love to take some of these. Someone's going to get mad at me for this, but hey, it's my show. Here we go. I'd love to take some of these little efforts and throw them in a room and say, someone pick a key, someone pick a tempo, and just jam. You're not playing a song, just jam, damn it.
And I've seen it happen. Like I said, I'm not naming names, but I've seen it happen, and it's deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
And it's because the creativity hasn't been taught, and not knowing the instrument. And here's what I mean. And then we're going to show some videos of Jeremy playing and talk about that. But here's what I mean. I think that I know some phenomenal classical musicians. This woman in Japan that I met when we did a documentary there, I just love watching her play. She's different.
Piano player?
There's a violin.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of classical musicians that if you tell them to just jam on your trumpet, just improvise on your violin, they only know how to read music.
Yes.
They're not taught enough about how the bow works, what are the different sounds you can get out of it. And the same thing with the drums. When I teach drum, I teach them, learn all the zones of your ride cymbal, learn all the different ways you can do a rim shot, right? I mean, you got to know your instrument to be creative with it.
Well, you got to understand how to be dynamic. I mean, that's been when I got the Steve Vai gig 20 years ago, and I got it. I went into one audition and I got the gig, and he said, you know, I love your playing. I love, you know, but what's more important is I love your enthusiasm, just so people know that like everybody always thinks it's your playing, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
But he said, one thing that we need to work on is your dynamics. Because at that time, when I joined his band, I was a punk, and it was all about hard as possible.
Playing on 11.
Get older, and you start to understand, wow, when you have dynamics, it actually makes things even heavier.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So let's watch some of Jeremy playing. I got a video. Let's start with Gravity Storm. Check this out. Killer drum cam video. We'll be back, folks, and then I'll give some shout outs. We'll get back to the conversation with Jeremy. Here we go. Turn it up. skip through this a little bit so you folks get a quick synopsis here. All right. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but I do want to show some of Jeremy's soloing, and then I got some questions after this one. Let's start with, this is from Dublin, Ireland in 2022. Check out this solo and the nod to Taylor on the drum. We'll talk about that when we come back. Check this, folks. This is amazing. Okay, that's the solo that made me stand in front of my bigger drum kit with the lighter fluid in one hand and the sticks in the other.
Oh,
it's so smooth. So
thanks, Dan.
yeah,
That's very
absolutely.
nice of you to say.
And I love the nod to Taylor, and that particular kit is set up a lot like his. Did you have a relationship? Was he an influence? What's the story there?
You know, there's a few. Couple of times I was in bands that we played when Taylor's bands were playing, and I met him a couple of times. And one of my good friends, Brent Woods, who plays guitar in
I know Brent.
Sebastian Bach's band,
Yeah.
was also in, was Chevy Metal, Coattail Riders with Taylor. So
Yeah.
they were really close friends. And, I always related to Taylor because, I'm kind of a spazzy, like hyper, California, like whatever. And I just always loved his personality on the drums. And again, it's you go back to like, sometimes it's less about perfection and it's about the attitude. And he just was able to drive that music. And it was such a hard hit when it happened. I remember, I remember exactly when I found out, and it's that last tour when I put the Octobon up there and I wrote Taylor on it. I was full on just kind of thinking about him and watching, just watching interviews and stuff like that, because it's always hard, when you see somebody that is so vibrant and is such a personality, and then they just go, and it makes you realize and know that life is short. And, the older you get, the less your body can handle things. That's just, I don't care, whatever it is, but just, that's the reality.
Yeah.
And it's, I've seen it with, we've seen it with other people in this business. Kevin Dubrow from Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
It's like one little thing, and that can be it. So it makes you realize how important life is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Let's switch gears and talk about something that maybe some of the audience or many are not familiar with. And that is your work with the didgeridoo. When I first saw you playing that, I lived in Australia for a little while. And I remember specifically my wife is a professional artist, and we were this is the first couple of weeks we were there, our proposed tour on Bondi Beach, which is like the Malibu beach of Australia.
Yeah,
and there was an art gallery there that had didgeridoos, and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen one of these in person. The lady showed us how to do it, and it was like so difficult.
Yeah.
Then I saw the videos. There's a live one we'll show and another one with a split screen of you in your
The split
studio.
screen, yeah.
Yeah, talk about that instrument and your attraction and what that is all about. Why not the juice harp? Why
I
the
know.
didgeridoo?
Well, being a drummer, I've always loved sounds that kind of mimic some sort of tribal feel. Some sort of just that where you feel like you're in the forest, or you feel like you're in the desert.
Yeah.
And there's this feel. And I'm also I'm really into I do a lot of mountain biking and I run. I'm super into cardio, vascular exercise just for my drumming. And that was the other attraction of the didgeridoo, because you have to learn how to circular breathe.
I was going to bring that up. It's got to be the epitome of circular breathing. For those who don't know, if you're playing the trumpet and there's a long ass note or a long trill, you're literally circulating. You're breathing out while you're breathing in, out through one orifice, in through the other. And the didgeridoo, because of the size and shape, it takes so much more air.
I know, but
that's got to be the biggest diaphragm workout ever.
But that's what I love about it. I mean, I love I'm one of these people that I'll go climb 7,000 feet on my bike in one day, on my mountain bike, just because I want to push myself and make things uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So anything that I can do to help my, how I am physically. And the didgeridoo is great because you really have to understand how you breathe, and breathing from your diaphragm and from up here. And you realize how many people breathe wrong and you don't get enough oxygen and you're hunched over. And for me as a drummer and a bike rider all my life, I'm hunched over like this.
Yeah.
So the didgeridoo, you have to be opened up because you have to have that room in your diaphragm. And
how interesting.
It's also just that you start doing it and it's like a meditative kind of thing, because that kind of breathing will trigger certain things and your sympathetic nerves and stuff. It will relax you.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you get this natural high. And I discovered this guy named Xavier Rudd, who's from Australia, and he's a singer, songwriter, didgeridoo, guitar. He's the guy that I first heard doing it, and he was doing it he was playing while he was playing the drums.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, it's on a stand. It's like mounted.
Yeah, and I realized that the didgeridoo is such a percussive instrument, and I just fell in love with it. And I really was focused. I said, I'm going to learn how to fucking circular breathe. I don't care. I'm going to learn how to do it. And I was focused, and I did it. And so, yeah.
That's so interesting, because I've always done yogic breathing while I'm playing drums, to be able to keep the stamina and not just blow all my force out and then be worn out, so that makes total sense. Before we show that video, I want to give some shout outs to some folks watching and chiming in, and I'm going to take my mic with me to make sure they can hear me. Dylan O'Neill is referring to that first video we showed that says the bell bronze cuts through like nothing else, Jeremy. We got people watching from Lagos, Macedonia. Let me see if I can read this. Sinsa Stoyanovsky, I hope I got that right. Fosa from Lagos, Nigeria. Stephen Shinder. Hey, Steve, my right-hand man working behind the scenes there. Who else do we have on board here? There she is, Andrea J. Harris. Everybody else go ahead and chime in. But what were we going to say, Jeremy? Sorry.
What was I going to say?
The bell. About the bronze bell?
Yeah. So he was saying how much he liked that. I was going to say, it should sound good with how much I spent for that thing. I mean, I'm a Tama endorser, so I get my drums for free, thankfully. But there are certain things that you can get an artist deal, but you don't get for free. And one of them is a bell brass snare drum.
Yeah,
because it's like the holy grail. But I remember buying that, and I've taken it. Every tour I go, it's.
Oh, that's awesome.
It becomes your sound.
That's cool. I want to show two videos of you playing drums and didgeridoo. The first one, I have something funny to tell you. The first couple times I watched it, it's the live one, and it sounds like, and I know I figured it out, but it sounds like the didgeridoo is also a rain stick. And I thought, how was that thing made? And then I realized the rain stick you're triggering on a pad, right?
That's
it took me a
yeah.
couple times to figure that out. Check this out, folks. Then we're going to show Jeremy playing with himself. I mean, Jeremy playing to himself. To himself. This is a family show on a split screen.
That's another station.
Yeah, that's so let's see. I want to make sure I get the right video. I'm pretty sure it's this one, I hope. Here we go. Check this out, folks. Okay, that's a great teaser. Now check out Jeremy playing with himself on a split screen to himself on a split screen. This is great. I love this. Check this out. I just love that stuff, man. It's so creative. I love that. It's great.
Oh, thanks, Dan. That means a lot, man. I as drummers, we don't make melodies. We're just we play, we keep the time. So that's the other thing I loved about discovering the didgeridoo is that it kind of gave me something to like be more creative with, like get different ideas to practice to, because it's after a while it's like you can play the same beat for however long, but like now it's all about like challenging yourself. Like, can I play this didgeridoo rhythm while I'm playing with 4 on my hands and 3 on my feet, and like put them all into place, and it's fun.
Yeah, it fills a whole new cup for you.
Yeah.
And that video reminds me of something else I wanted to talk about, and that's ink. Do you remember which tattoo you got first?
Of course, dude. Of course. So the first tattoo I ever got, I'll show you this right here. Is see this little fish right here?
Yeah.
Dude, I thought I was so hardcore. I got this tattoo and I was like showing it off.
How old were you? 10?
I was I was either 20 or I was 21, and I was in LA, originally from Northern California, but I was think I was 20 years old, and I went to the NAMM show. And this was before I had any sort of career. I mean, I was in a band, but like, I hadn't really done anything. But I remember going to LA and the NAMM show and musicians and tattoos and hot chicks. And like that kind of where I was growing up, I was Mr. like Rush progressive guy. And then when I started to like, get a little bit older and like want to have fun, I started seeing like the other side of it. So I always remembered that because it was like I went to Sunset Strip Tattoo.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Place. And I picked it, and the woman, the tattoo artist, and you always remember your first one, but that was I think so fondly about that because it was cool. Like, my first.
And which was more, if I can use the word, I use it loosely because it's not the same for everybody, but which was more painful, on your neck or your head? And show the one on your head, which is really cool.
Well, I'll tell you something. My favorite tattoo is this one on my head. It's one of I got this tattoo, I think it's like 6 years ago, maybe. And it's a Polynesian design.
I was going to say, it looks tribal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's my, again, it's one of the things about tattoos is that you will notice that styles of tattoos, the types of tattoos people have, there's styles that go in are more popular than others. For a while it was color. Now you see a lot of people with just black and gray.
Yeah.
But Polynesian tattoos are my favorite because you don't design them until you know what the story is that you want.
I love that.
So when I sought out, like, I'm like, if I'm going to get a Polynesian tattoo on my head, on my skull, I got to have the best. Who's the best Polynesian tattoo artist? So I found this guy, Manu Farones, who's from South America, who's just, he's one of those guys that you make an appointment and you visit him, and then he says, give me the topics that you want in this design. And you say the topics, and then he'll point out little things that relate to the topic. And wow. I just think it's great because it's a creative way of tattooing. And it's not just like, yeah, here's a skull, here's a knife right here, spider web, here's a microphone, which I'm fine with. Believe me, I'm like the king of like, if you dare me to get a pointless tattoo, I will get it.
A what tattoo?
A pointless tattoo. Oh, if you dare me to get something that was just super ridiculous.
Yeah.
I love doing that because, it's just fun. But yeah, the ink stuff, that's my favorite tattoo.
And which took more tolerance, the head or the neck?
Well, I tell you this didn't hurt at all, Dan.
Really? There's no flesh there, though.
I know, but it's everybody's. This is the thing that I found because, like, for me, the most painful place to get tattooed is on your rib cage.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I have big tattoos. Like, that is just it's painful, and the older you get, the more that it hurts. So
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I was a late bloomer. So I got my first and only tattoo so far when I was 44, 45. I was like, here, I drew it myself. I'll show you. Okay, so before I show everybody and you, I really had to think about it. Like, what do I want that I'll never grow out of? And I think of myself as a pretty positive person. And when I was a little kid at Fallbrook Square, was it Fallbrook Square, Topanga Plaza in the West Valley? When you came up the stairs in the old Montgomery Ward, there was this mosaic 3D thing that had a smiling sun. And I always found that symbol so enchanting. So I drew this myself.
Let's see it.
And got that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I drew the flames around it and everything, yeah. And I was like 44, 45 when I got that.
I love it. And now, did it hurt? Did you think it hurt?
It was like a sunburn while it was happening. It was like a hot sunburn, itchy a little bit. Yeah. And it's addictive. I mean, I started thinking of all these
No,
other
they're
tattoos.
not. How can you say they're addictive? I only have a few tattoos.
And I want to get more, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But I've like designed some. I have like a solar system in mind with
That's
my
cool.
kids or the different planets with their
Oh,
initials and all that. But now, my wife and I, as you know, we have 11 kids, so I don't know.
it's 11 tattoos,
Between the
man.
two of us, yeah. But yeah, I find the whole culture of tattoos fascinating because people get them for different reasons. So sometimes they're so personal, and someone's whole body could be a story, just like
Yeah.
Egyptian hieroglyphs, things like that. So I always like that discussion. Yeah.
Well, I when I was a kid, there was a book called The Illustrated Man, and
Oh yeah.
the movie. I remember on VHS, my mom got me the movie, and it was just this guy was covered in tattoos, and I wanted that. I just was
Really?
like,
Even as a
I
kid?
want, yeah, I want to be covered, and you have to understand, like when I was 8 years old, Ozzy Osbourne was my childhood hero. So
Oh,
I was already drawing his tattoos that he had on here
I
and on his
remember when
arm.
he got those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's awesome.
my love affair with tattoos is out of the womb.
Cool. Let's do this. I'm going to show another video of Jeremy playing. Then we'll see who else is checking in. We'll do some shout outs. Then we'll close out with the Jeremy Colson Fun Fact segment. There we go. All right, let's do this one. I showed a little bit of this one. I'm going to show more. This is in Kansas City, Missouri from 2022. I'm going to skip ahead a bit so you folks can see more of this awesome solo. Check this out. One of the things I love about your playing is one of the best things for drummers to do to really get great at their timing. And that is that you work with a lot of ostinatos, just a lot of patterns that are so precision, and the precision is there because I think it's part of your language in your drumming. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, Dan, that's one of my best compliments I've ever gotten. I really
Oh, thank you.
appreciate saying that. Again, being that guys like Bozio were such big influences, and then guys like Simon Phillips, um, I really love when drum patterns are created within toms, snare, hi hat, ride cymbal, bell, china, where a beat is opposed to, and just instead of this, hi hat, snare,
Yeah.
kick, where you can do the same thing, except now you can start doing some like different linear things. Like Bozio was the king of that. When I heard him first, the video Bozio came out with these videos, melodic drumming and the ostinato,
Yes.
in '93. And there's a pattern there on the third video. There's a song, or there's a solo thing that he does, and it's called the linear funk. And it was the first time I'd ever heard somebody play, where you have the snare, do tap, do tap, but then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and all that stuff, and I'm like, wow. And what's cool is that on the new Vi record, I played on a lot of the record, but there were a couple other drummers that played on. This one guy named Vinny Caluta and Terry Bozio, a couple of drummers. They played on the record too.
Are they any good?
I don't know. I
I'll
whatever.
have to look him up. I think one of them, Vinny, is that the guy from the Bay City Rollers?
And when I looked in Guitar Player magazine, and it was like And on the drum seat, we have guest appearances by Vinnie Colaiuta, Terry Bozzio, and Jeremy Colson. I was just like, if I was, 15 years old and I read that, like what,
Yeah.
it was like it was a
Premonition.
yeah, man. It was
Yeah.
just, it was one of those things where it's like, it's cool. But anyways, the song Candle Power that we play, Bozzio kind of constructed this beat, and it's a very linear beat, and it's just I love doing that because it really can open up your playing.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
definitely.
always try to encourage my students and drummers to always not so much about if you're playing it correctly, but always try to think outside the box, open up your playing, because that's more important than getting the feel right. Nobody cares, man.
Yeah.
Like I see people that are like, they get stuck on like the middle of a fill, like students, and I'm like, I want you to know something, that if you hit the 8-inch tom instead of the 10-inch tom, you haven't played it wrong.
Right. Yeah.
All you have to do is keep the time. There's some people who are very analytical about fills. It has to be exactly like. But the main thing is that does it end one section and lead into the next section, and does it do it naturally?
Right. I like to tell students and people that are so obsessed with that stuff, there's no such thing as mistakes in music, only new discoveries.
Yes.
Right? And make it your own, even if it's different, and that's okay. Let's see who else is watching real quickly. I saw a comment. Here's one from Dave Good. Hey, Dave. He says to you, he's saying, I love how seamlessly you mix in hard playing with subtlety. Very inspiring. And that comes from the dynamics lessons that you were talking about.
Well, I have to say that Dave Good, I feel the same way about his playing.
Oh, awesome. Dave's great. And Dylan O'Neill, who we mentioned earlier, who lives in Australia, says, I've been making a few didgeridoos recently. I find naturally hollowed tree branches in the bush. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And going back to my tattoo, my son Steve says, we're hardcore Monty Python fans. And Steve says, I always, what does he say? I thought that the smiling sun had to do with the symbols in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, because King Arthur had that on his shirt, and I found a long sleeve green shirt with that on it. I don't know if you remember, Steve. It was probably around the time you were born, actually, in the early 90s, but that's funny. Let's see who else is. I saw a couple other things. Oh, Albany in Western Australia. That's where Dylan is. And Brian Cahoon, a super fan, says, greetings. Very cool. So let's continue by rounding this out with the Jeremy Colson fun fact segment. So I'm going to throw a bunch of questions at you. Just answer almost without thinking. Okay, ready? Here we go. Paper or plastic?
Paper.
Shaved, trimmed, or waxed?
Trimmed.
Soda, water, or beer?
Water.
Muscle cars or small sports cars?
Muscle cars.
What is the one destination you look for on a tour itinerary that you get excited about because of the food, other than my house?
Italy.
Oh, Italy. And what's your favorite there? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, well, I mean, we had, Steve's Italian, so he's, we always end up like going to, there's a couple, he knows this one guy who's like this prince, and he owns this amazing Italian restaurant. And it's like, when you taste pasta in Italy, it tastes different.
Yeah, that's what my son Alex says. He lived there for a bit. Yeah.
It's different. I don't know what it is, but,
that's
so
cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's always nice,
Great. What drummer who's no longer with us would you love to spend a magical day with, and what would you talk about?
Okay, because this is one of those things. It'd be easy to give a regular answer that you would think, but I would say I'm gonna go with somebody different. I'm gonna go with Randy Castillo when he was in Austin.
Oh, that's a great one.
because he was, he's the reason why I love, why I wanted to play Tama drums. And when I was a kid, before I got into Rush and progressive stuff, Randy was the guy that I just idolized. And when I saw the Tama, he had the white Tama kit.
Yeah.
That was it, for
And,
men.
and what would you want to talk about with Randy? Amongst many things, what's something on the list you'd want to pick his brain about or commiserate about?
I always what I like to do? I like to talk to drummers about just like life,
Yeah.
things outside the drums.
Yeah. Great.
Because drummers are, we have an interesting instrument because it's not something that we can, like a guitar player, you can carry around your guitar everywhere and you can practice. I mean, you can have practice pad, but drummers, like, we play on this contraption that's really loud
Yeah.
and neighbors don't like it. And so I think drummers, and I've always been told that I'm like the kind of cliche kind of drummer, like hyper, like, hit hard. I break everything. Like I naturally grab things and they'll break just because I'm too rough with them. I'm trying to learn, Dan, at my older age, more finesse.
Play 2 months of nothing but Steely Dan when you're in between tours, something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Jeff would be the other guy I would want to talk to.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Definitely. Very cool. Awesome. Where on the planet have you not been that you'd love to go visit? Where?
Africa.
Oh, Africa. Cool. Any particular part?
Place on the planet?
Yeah. Yeah. Africa qualifies.
That's the one place I still haven't. I've been everywhere else in the world, but Africa. The closest I was last summer, we were in Europe and we played in Sancti Petri, and it was an island off Spain, and it's 15 kilometers from the tip of Africa.
Yeah, from North Africa.
And dude, the heat that we experienced, like Africa heat is different. Like that heat is like, man.
Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah.
Awesome. Jeremy, how can everyone get a hold of you and where can they follow you?
My Instagram is it's Jeremy Colson at 315, I think.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's Jeremy Colson 315. You'll see it on there. And then I'm also on Facebook.
And you got the Colson Drum Lab on YouTube.
I got Colson Drum Lab. I'm trying to continue more of that.
Good.
But I'm going to be on tour for the next year and a half. So I'm going to try. I'm thinking about some ideas for Colson Drum Lab that I would like to do as far as like topics and interviews and demonstrations and stuff like that. So
cool. Great. Jeremy, thank you so much for taking time on a Saturday, 3 days before going on tour. Hang on the line with me. It's been a pleasure getting to know you more and spending time with you. Really appreciate it, brother.
Dan, you are the man. Thank you so much, man. It is an honor to do an interview with you, buddy.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for following what we do and joining me with Jeremy. Even if you're watching on the archive, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, or Instagram, go ahead and chime in the comments. I'll be sending Jeremy the link. And everybody, be nice to each other. We got a lot of great stuff happening with Drum Talk TV, including our in-person 10-year celebration in Las Vegas, May 20th. Sign up for our newsletter. That's at the website or the sign up button on our Facebook page so you can get the news first and find out how you can be there and find out about the stream and our new membership site that we're debuting. See you all soon. Thanks, everybody.